It's here and it's beautiful. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the All Cardinals podcast. My name is Donnie Jordan, joined every week by my main man, Richie Bradshaw. Today, we'll be breaking down the 2024 Arizona Cardinals schedule. After weeks and months of anticipation, we finally have something to look forward to. We can start planning, going through wins and losses, not other great stuff. Before we get into the nitty gritty, go to comment, like, subscribe on the video below. Follow us from Twitter at RichieBrads36 and myself at Donnie Jordan. Richie, the schedule is finally here. Before we start, I do want to say I'm a little disappointed in a lot of the social media teams because I feel like the bar has been set pretty high, and this is basically the Super Bowl for a lot of those social media admins and the teams around them. I wasn't exactly blown away with a lot of presentations last night.
Nope. And dude, the weirdest one was the Commanders, right? Like the one they had for the Cardinals was like the lizard on the kid's head. And like I'm sitting there
Where they
watching
went
and I'm
through and
like,
had like vines for all of their opponents.
yeah, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? Like, it wasn't even a good vine.
Desert?
I guess. Like, we're kind of reaching, but I mean, is what it is, I guess. You know, cardinals and reptiles, they are in the same food chain. So
Are they?
I don't know. I'm reaching here. I'm doing my best.
I guess. All right. We'll do our best to look at this 2024 schedule. Initial thoughts, takeaways. I mean, we were chopping it up before we hit record, and I think this would be a really good place to start. They had away games at Buffalo, at Green Bay, at Miami, which really could have gone sideways for them if those games landed in the later part of the season, because you definitely don't want to run into a blizzard. They get Buffalo week 1, no snowstorm. They get the Green Bay Packers week 6, no snowstorm. And then you get the Miami Dolphins week 8, so you don't really have to worry about that coveted Miami heat weather, whatever you want to call it. Very, very good timing for them, just in terms of staying out of the elements.
That was something you brought up to me, and it wasn't something that I initially considered, but it is a really big deal for a team based in the desert. And you look at the games that are later in the season that could be cold weather games, and you've got Minnesota in December, but they play in a dome. Mm-hmm. Seattle in late November, you play them every year. You're used to that kind of weather. At Carolina, I mean, it could be chilly, but Carolina's not exactly known for having a ton of snow. It really was a favorable schedule for the Cardinals to knock out their cold weather games in the first half of the year, like you said, and then to also have like the only real like cold weather games. You have New England at home too. That would have been a freezing cold game if you had to go on the road for that. It definitely fell in the favor of the Cardinals, and I know that fans have to be happy about that. This is a very good situation that has unfolded for the team, I would say.
Yeah, and then, just looking at the other cold weather teams, you have Detroit, you have Washington, depending on what time of year it is, Chicago, New York, all come into your crib. Now, granted, like all of those teams are going to be before the week 11 bye week, but still, the later in the year it gets, the more chilly it gets. And obviously, there's that whole persona about the dome teams, and especially us being out here in the desert. Regardless, I feel like the chips definitely fell in their favor. Week 1 starting out at Buffalo. I think it's the 4th time in the last 5 years the Cardinals have opened on the road. Close with the 49ers. That's the 3rd out of 4 years they'll be closing the season at State Farm Stadium. I guess we could just kind of break it down by game. So at Buffalo, it's going to be kind of a tall task. Really interested to see the fireworks between Josh Allen and the fully healthy Kyler Murray. The Bills lost Stephon Diggs. A lot of people were kind of down on them. Could you see them sneaking into Buffalo and getting a win?
Yes, absolutely. I think this is one of the worst, quote unquote, worst Bills teams we've seen of the Josh Allen era. They lost a lot. As long as you have Josh Allen, you're going to win a lot of football games. But this is a team that's very beatable. And if you get them the first week of the year, this is the time to be able to get that upset. Now, if this game was in December, no, I'm not taking the Cardinals to win this game. And I'm still probably taking the Bills to win the game, but I will tell you that this is one of the more favorable matchups the Cardinals have against a playoff level team.
Yeah, so this will be the first time they've ever met in week one between the Cardinals and the Bills, and then second year in a row they've opened a season against the team in the Eastern time zone. I really don't know because like week one is such a hit or miss week, and especially
Right.
with the Cardinals team, we haven't exactly seen at full strength yet with the healthy Kyler Murray, with Marvin Harrison Jr., with all of the new weapons they added. Very exciting for sure. So I'm really excited to get that going. Week two, they are at home, the home opener against the Los Angeles Rams, divisional game, the first division matchup of the season for both teams, the 93rd all-time meeting between the two rivals. The Rams don't have Aaron Donald anymore. They did retool their offensive line. They're going to get a healthy Matthew Stafford back. Obviously, they have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua as weapons for them. I think getting a win at home is a real possibility. I think it all depends on what they show in week one for me, though.
I still really like this Rams team, even with Aaron Donald gone from the equation. And they did a really good job to retool their front seven. You have Byron Young coming back off the edge. You've got Kobe Turner, I believe is his name, on the defensive line. You bring in Jared Verse in the first round, Brandon Fiskey, the teammates from Florida State. They did a really good job to keep their defense intact when you consider you lost arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. I still think that that's a really good team. I do appreciate that that's your home opener. I think that that's a really good way to get everybody invested in this team, is to put them up against one of the better and sneakier good football teams in the NFC. This is another really good chance to make a statement for your team in year two of the Jonathan Gannon era. And in a scenario where they beat the Bills, this should be a game that sells out with more Cardinal fans than it should be Rams fans. And unfortunately, we know how rare that is these days.
The Cardinals have sold out their lower bowl season tickets. I don't know if you saw that.
No?
They were the third fastest team in the NFL this offseason to do that. Granted, I think they
Wow.
took away a handful of thousand to build those the like cabanas, I think they're called,
Right.
that are going to be like field level and like in one of the end zones. But still, they still sold them out, and the tickets are definitely going quick. So, little plug for them. If you haven't gotten your season tickets already, go ahead and contact a representative for them. Week three, Richie, they are at home again. This is kind of the early season circle matchup for me. The Detroit Lions. Basically, what everybody in Arizona envisions this football team to be in terms of toughness, in terms of grit, in terms of personality. That's what Dan Campbell's done with the Detroit Lions, and I'm so fascinated to see Jonathan Gannon's people get off the bus against the kneecap biters for Dan Campbell coming into this week three matchup.
No, and I love that you said this is kind of the benchmark for what the Cardinals are looking to eventually become, because I think that Jonathan Gannon does kind of, in the same sense of Dan Campbell, like the speak softly and carry a big stick, as a famous Harry Truman once said. But this is exactly what the Cardinals want to become. So, what better way to take a look at where you're at than to play the team that you're, sort of in aspiring to be?
Mhm.
This is a really good matchup. And again, this is 3 weeks in a row that you have a chance to make a statement win. And you could very easily start the season 0-3. And the odds are you're going to start the season 0-3. If you were to get a win against any of these three teams, you have to feel really, really good about the progress that you're making. Of these three teams, the Lions would be the best win. I don't think it's close.
I would agree. Buffalo, waiting at Buffalo, regardless of what time of year, that's still a very good accomplishment. Do you really
Absolutely.
think they can start 0-3 here?
They could. I mean,
I
you're
mean, sure
looking
they
at three
can.
playoff teams.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel like sometimes I'm maybe a little bit more higher on the Cardinals than most. Before we move on, I got the notes from the Cardinals media relations pulled up to the side of my laptop. They've met 18 times in the last 24 years, which marks the Lions. Which marks the Lions as Arizona's most common non-division opponent during that span. So they certainly see each other a lot. I have week 3 circled on my calendar. A lot of people in the Valley are going to have week 4, Richard,
Yep,
circled on their
that's
calendar.
my circled, and
Washington,
I'm going to
the
that game no matter
the
what.
the Washington Commanders come into town. A whole lot of storylines here. The
Two big ones.
third and final of the 3-game home stretch they have to begin the season after they return home from Buffalo. Where do you start? Do you start with the Zach Ertz revenge tour? Do you start with the Jaden Daniels return to the Valley? Little plug
That's
for
the
Locked
one.
On Sun Devils for you. Um, Cliff Kingsbury makes his return to State Farm Stadium, and I'm really interested to see how that pans out for him.
I feel like for 80% of fans, it's going to be the fact that Cliff Kingsbury is coming home. The 20% that is left, I would imagine that's going to be the common denominator of Sun Devil fans and Cardinal fans, because there is no love loss with Jaden Daniels. And quite frankly, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you rooted for Jaden Daniels as an ASU fan, I question you. I truly question your fandom at that point.
Really?
Absolutely. 100%. There is no reason you should cheer for a guy who ruined the organization and left it in ruins while it was here. But
I don't know
neither
how.
here nor there.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. We'll get to that on the All Sun Devils podcast. But Washington, I feel like the Cardinals opened the season at Washington last year. I feel like they should have got a win, even with Josh Dobbs at quarterback. I feel like the Cardinals have improved significantly compared to the Commanders. And that's no disrespect to them, but the Commanders are very obviously in what they would deem a rebuild. Cardinals are in a rebuild too, but they're much further along than I think Washington is. I think I should get a win here.
They should. This is, like you said, this is a Cardinals team that should be a lot further along than the Commanders are. The Commanders feel like they're in the middle of a serious rebuild. They put a Band-Aid on their head coaching position with Dan Quinn. Sorry, Dan, that is not a long-term solution at head coach. This is a brand new ownership. They are very much behind the 8 ball right now. They're all in on Jaden Daniels. They are doing their best to surround him with talent, but even Jaden Daniels, for as talented as he is not somebody that can lift up a team that is just this devoid of talent. If the Cardinals start the season 0-3, which for the record, I do not think is going to happen, but if they do, this is a must-win game for plenty of reasons, but if nothing else, because it's a game you should be able to win. This is not a good Commanders team, Donnie.
No, I would agree. And then week 5 kind of kicks off I think the toughest 4-game stretch of the schedule at San Francisco, the reigning NFC champs. They've lost a couple pieces over there, but it's still one of the best run teams in the National Football League. You're getting them on the road for Arizona's first divisional road game. Cardinals have a 6-4 record at Levi Stadium, but I mean, throw all records out the window, whatever you play within the division. That's the tall order for me. That's going to be a really tall order for me for Arizona to walk into San Francisco and come out with a win. But we've already kind of touched on this. The Cardinals have had improvements. They are a better football team than they were last year. And I feel like 2024 is kind of the year where it's like, okay, you started out 4-13 last year. We got you some ingredients. Time for you guys to start cooking. I don't think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say this is a crucial game. This is one of the biggest games of the season for you. It's against the team to beat in the NFC until further notice. And I don't think anyone's going to be going into this game expecting you to win, but at a minimum, you need to be able to show some fight in this game. Like you said, the Niners lost a few guys, but this is a team that reloads more than anything else. This is, like I said, this is the team to beat until further notice. So the Cardinals are going to need to find a way to be competitive or maybe even pull off the upset. But huge game right here. Huge game.
I think they showed fight last year in San Francisco, and I also don't think they had Kyler for that matchup either. And it's going to be so interesting to me because the Cardinals last year, nobody really knew what Gannon, what Rallis, what Petzing, what their tendencies were, and then you get the Niners first game of the year on the road for divisional opponents. That they got some film on you now. I think it's going to be a really interesting opportunity for Arizona to kind of see if they can go blow for blow with a team who just went to the Super Bowl last year. It's not in like a negative connotation either. Like I'm pretty high on the Cardinals, and I just want to see them kind of step up to the plate and say, hey, you know what, we're here. Like the scoreboard be damned because that's obviously a really tall order, but we're here. It doesn't get any easier the week after that, traveling to Green Bay, to Lambeau to take on the Packers. Jordan Love really came on strong at the end of last year. Packers have one of the better rosters in the NFC. The notes here provided by the team says it's the NFL's second oldest rivalry, just behind the Cardinals and the Bears. They're going to meet for the 77th time, including the postseason. The Cardinals have won the last 3 of 4 and the last 4 of 6. They last played at Lambeau Field in 2018. And then obviously it notes Cardinals rookie cornerback Max Melton could face his brother Bo Melton, a wide receiver for the Packers. So a little bit of family there. But again, like you're on the road against San Francisco. You get beat up in that NFC West divisional game. Okay, pack your bags, go to Lambeau and beat the Packers.
Another really tough game. This is a playoff team. Donnie, if you look at the first, what is this, 7 games? 6 games.
6.
You look at the first 6 games, you're playing 5 playoff teams. And it doesn't get easier with Green Bay, and it's certainly not easier going to Lambeau, where you have arguably the best home field advantage in the entire NFL and one of the best home field advantages in all of sports.
Yep.
This is a Packers team, like you said, that really came on down the stretch last year. Jordan Love really found his footing and has emerged as quite possibly a top 10 quarterback by the end of the 2024 season. This is not an easy game, and I don't think that anyone should be expecting the Cardinals to go in and win this game. Like I said with the 49ers, you want to be able to go in and be competitive, but of all the games that you have to start the year, this might be the one game where you give them a mulligan, where if they lose by 3 possessions, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. It's Green Bay. So the other teams, I think you need to find a way to be competitive. Green Bay, you can kind of be like, yeah, I get it.
Yep. Nope, completely agree. Then they return home week 7 under the bright lights of Monday Night Football. Richie Bradshaw, we are back in prime time, baby.
Back.
Did we ever leave? What was the big question?
Not us.
We did actually, because they did not have a primetime game last year. But they do have one this year, Monday Night Football, week 7 against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Carolina Panthers were the only team not to get a primetime slot this year. Not surprising at all. The Chargers are an interesting team to be because I feel like the talent has always been there on both sides of the ball. And for whatever reason, they just cannot piece it together. Now, you insert Mr. Harbaugh, you insert number 5 overall pick Joe Alt, locking down one of the sides of the offensive line. They still got Justin Herbert. They did lose a bunch of weapons, so that does concern me. The defense, I feel like, is either banged up or aging, maybe both. I would like to see them win this.
I like the Cardinals in this game as of now. I like its home field advantage. I love that it's primetime football. It's not Thursday night football either. It's Monday night. This is real primetime football.
Yep.
It's a big game. It's against someone that the organization has played previously, and obviously it's brand new faces for both sides of the football. But it's one of those games where you would love to win it. I would say similar to the 49ers or the Rams game, this is a really good benchmark game for you. The Lions game, really good benchmark. This feels like a game you should win, but we also know how good of a coach Jim Harbaugh is, and it's difficult to imagine him not having a winning season. This is also a mess of a roster that he inherited with the Chargers. Like, they are talented on both sides of the football. at the top, but you start looking at the depth and you're like, there's not much here that really instills a lot of confidence. But you've got superstars on both sides of the ball. Khalil Mack, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Justin Herbert. Like, there are some serious weapons here, but there's also a lot of holes on this team. I think the Cardinals should be able to win this game, and beating Jim Harbaugh on its own would be a huge boost to the confidence for the Arizona Cardinals.
After that, they will be grabbing their track shoes and making the trip to Miami to take on the NFL's fastest show on turf against the Miami Dolphins. This is the second visit for Arizona to Miami in the last 20 years, and will be the second meeting between quarterbacks who finished number 1 and number 2 in Heisman voting back in 2018 between Kyler Murray and Tua Tagovailoa. Not a daunting place to play. But when you get Mike McDaniel and you get Tyreek, you get Waddle, you throw Odell Beckham into the mix, and they can also run the ball pretty damn good too. Their defense is nothing to shake a stick at either. You don't look at Miami like you look at like a trip to like San Fran or Green Bay, but like that's another damn they're good team, and that's going to be a tough one to pull out for Arizona.
I think Miami is my pick to win the division as of May 16th. That is very much subject to change, but that Dolphins team offensively alone is going to be damn near impossible to stop. You've got one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver of the last 10 years with Tyreek Hill. You've got Jalen Waddle, who is proven to be a borderline superstar. Odell Beckham, very, very good receiver, even if the stats don't necessarily back that up. You've got Devon Achane, who put the league on notice as a rookie. Raheem Mostert, who just had, what was it, a 21 touchdown season, something like that. It was a Dolphins franchise record. He was an absolute monster. Tua is amazing
as the
himself.
Achane fantasy owner, he scored probably twice that number, it feels like. But
in one game alone, he had like 60 points in League OP. Defense, still good. They are going to be retooling a little bit with Xavier Howard gone. They're waiting for Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb to be back from their ACL injuries, but you still got Jalen Ramsey. You've still got Javon Holland. You've still got a pretty dynamite front seven, even with Christian Wilkins also being gone. I still like this Dolphins team. Clearly, I do enough to say that I like them to win the division as of now. But going to South Beach, like you said, that's not like this insane home field advantage. Similar to West Coast sports, Florida sports are very fair weather. And if the Dolphins are what they're supposed to be, it'll be a tough game. But if they come out to start the year soft, I don't feel like this is one of the games where you go, oh my God, how are we going to defeat the noise? This to me is one of the more ideal road games for the Cardinals. But again, if the Dolphins are what I think they're going to be and what they should be, this is not going to be an ideal spot. I just would tell you, like, compared to going to Green Bay or San Francisco or Buffalo, this is one of the easier road games that you have on your slate right now, especially in the early part of the year.
Yeah, I don't think the players and their families are going to be too pissed about going to Miami at that point of the year, too. So,
no.
Nonetheless, still like one of the most challenging teams in the NFL. It's definitely going to present a challenge. And obviously, the offensive evil genius, mastermind, whatever you want to call him, and Mike McDaniel is going to have a few things up his sleeve.
Like his vape?
Yep. Week 9, the Cardinals return home and welcome number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. The 94th all-time meeting between the only 2 charter members of the NFL from its 1920 founding, dating right now to its existence. It's the 3rd meeting in 4 seasons between the 2 teams, and obviously the Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams matchup is going to be huge for everybody. The Bears are a team where it wouldn't surprise me if that Williams and Dunze connection really got going in Chicago and things kind of flipped the switch. Also wouldn't shock me if they took their time regardless, I still think this is probably a game the Cardinals need to win. You have had 8 weeks of football leading into this. You should kind of figure out what works and what doesn't. And obviously, if you're an NFL team on a week-to-week basis, some things are going to change. You're going to kind of creep and mold yourself into whatever you need to be. I still think, regardless of the talent, regardless of the number one overall pick and Caleb Williams, who, granted, like we are singing his praises, he still hasn't played it down in the NFL. We don't know what he looks like yet. Speaking of, dude, did you see that sick rookie training camp video where he like dropped back and threw a pass? Looked great.
Dude, oh my God. Like, he looks like he's ready to be an NFL quarterback. He threw the ball really well. He threw it right to his receiver. Phenomenal.
Dude, someone on Twitter said, "Oh man, he even used a right hand. Like he's
right?
Good to go."
Dude, come on. What are we doing here? This is like Connor Drios hyping up Terrell Pryor because of his Instagram highlights.
Aren't we all? Shout out to Connor.
Shout out to Connor.
This is a game I think that the Cardinals should win.
Yes. I feel like I'm in a minority for some reason not believing in the Bears. I think they're just,
at least right away.
I just think they're a really overrated team. There's pieces, but this is still a team that's not competing in the NFC, which is not exactly a heavyweight conference. I still think you're the third, maybe even the last place team in the NFC North, because I'm not totally off the Vikings. Like, I am not a total believer in the Bears. But of course, they got weapons. I mean, you've got Caleb Williams throwing to Roma Dunze, better known as Doomsday. He's throwing to Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. They got Roshan Johnson and DeAndre Swift in the backfield. They got Cole Kmet. This is a good offense. There's a couple of pieces on defense, and I know that their defense plays a lot better. Like, I know they were one of the top half teams towards the end of the year. I just don't look at the Bears and see them as this absolutely terrifying team. You get them home, depending on how the year starts. I do like the Cardinals in this game.
Moving on for their second straight home game, the New York Football Jets will be making their second ever trip to State Farm Stadium. Aaron Rodgers will be a very, very big draw for the desert crowd then. We'll see if he can come on the podcast. The content of that podcast might be subject to change.
I was going to say it wouldn't be about football.
No. We will see. Jets are kind of in that. First of all, before we get into this, I cannot believe the NFL is doubling down on the New York Football Jets again.
Oh my God, dude.
Giving them 6 primetime games.
They didn't learn their lesson last year. And you are now another year older for Aaron Rodgers, and now coming off an Achilles injury. He's not going to be what he is. And if I'm wrong, put me on cold takes. But this is not a Jets team that should be playing 6 primetime games. We did this last year, and it bit you in the ass. Why are we doing this again?
You should call me a bitch.
No, but
if the shoe fits. The Jets, everybody was kind of picking as like a Super Bowl pick last year. I don't know how I feel about them heading into 2024.
Dude, it's a good team. It's a really good team on paper. I'll wait and see it, because that defense is going to have to carry a lot of games, because I still think Rodgers is good. Garrett Wilson's great. Breece Hall is great. I don't think that offense is good enough to win against some of the best teams in AFC.
Week 11, the Cardinals will be taking the week off, their bye week, and to quote, is it NSYNC or Backstreet? It's got to be in sync, right? Bye, 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 bye.
That's NSYNC, yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
But when they return, it'll be Backstreet Boys for Backstreet's Back.
There we go. All right. Do.
Also, I got Cardinals winning the bye week.
They should win the bye week. I don't know. The bye has added a lot of strong pieces over the offseason. I would like to see them actually do it before we can call them winners. This will be the earliest off week for Arizona since 2020, where they had a week 8 bye week. Arizona has had bye weeks in week 12, 13, and 14 the previous 3 seasons. After that, they are on the road to Seattle, taking on those darn Seahawks. This is the first of two meetings that will happen in 3 weeks between the Cardinals and Seattle. Cards have a 5-4 record in their last 9 visits to Lumen Field, which still feels really weird to say. They have more road wins than any other team since the venue opened there in 2002. So Cardinals definitely know how to get it done in Seattle. If they're not looking too good, I'm sure they can call Colt McCoy up, see what he's doing, maybe try to snag another backup quarterback win in Seattle. I'm not crazy big on the Seahawks this year, and that's not a slap to them. I want to see what the new coaching staff does. I think Geno is what he is. DK Metcalf has kind of not fallen off for me, but he is what he is. Same with Lockett. The defense, especially in the secondary, has some really good pieces, but Cardinals just drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. Michael Wilson's going to have another year under his belt. Greg the Torch Dortch is going to be the starting slot receiver. Got James Conner, got Trey Benson, you got an upgraded offensive line, and got the best run blocking tight end in the NFL draft, and our boy Tip. Seattle doesn't scare me. Not even at home.
I don't think so either. And I do think that Seattle could be a good team, but I think they're closer to mediocre than they are good.
Mediocre?
They have pieces. Like, I still like Geno Smith. I think he is a quality quarterback, but like I said about the team, he's closer to average than he is good. You've got weapons on offense. I'm still big on DK. I know that you're a little lower. I still think he's a true number one receiver. Lockett, I definitely feel is falling off, but they got Jackson Smith and Jigba ready to step up. You got Kenny Walker in the backfield, could be solid. Defense, TBD. I know Mike McDonald is coming in, and he's one of the best young, innovative defensive minds in football, but he's also never been a head coach before. We'll wait and see how that pans out. I will tell you this. I do think there's a chance that the Cardinals can finish ahead of the Seahawks in the NFC West.
I would buy that.
But this will be another really critical game for the Cardinals. You'll be playing the Seahawks twice in 3 weeks. If you get the win in Seattle, I think you get the sweep.
I'm here for that. Week 13, they were at the Minnesota Vikings, and I feel like the Vikings are one of the teams in the NFL. They lost Kirk Cousins. They still have a good amount of talent, but they've also lost a good amount of talent as well. It really depends on who you talk to. Some people are still pretty high on the Vikings. Other people, like myself, are very much in wait-and-see mode whenever it comes to that team. A road game late in the season, it does get pretty loud in Minnesota. We'll see. We talked about the whole rookie quarterback thing. JJ McCarthy could be starting for the Vikings by this point. We're not completely sure what their plans are with him and Sam Darnold. I could see a win coming here.
I do too. I still like the Vikings. Like I said, I think I like them more than the Bears. At worst, I think it's a coin flip. I do buy into JJ McCarthy. I do think he's a good, precise passer. He's definitely what the Vikings look for in their prototype kind of quarterback. And he's got the best receiver in football in Jay Jettis. You give him the weapons, there's a chance TJ Hawkinson is good to go for this game too as he recovers from an ACL. Defense, we'll see. They got Jonathan Grenard to replace Daniil Hunter. They drafted Dallas Turner in the first round. It's a good Vikings team, but this is another winnable game for you. There's a chance that... All right, I'll say it. Ready for this? I think you could be riding a 6-game winning streak.
Okay.
Because
we're talking about the Cardinals, right?
Yep. Not the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
Because if we go through it, I think you can beat the Chargers. I don't think that's a great Chargers team. You go on the road to Miami, that's going to be really tough. I do think that's a winnable road game for you. You get the Bears at home. I think you beat the Bears. You get the Jets at home. That's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a wait and see because you're in mid-November at that point. I do think that's a winnable game as of now. I'm just not nearly as big on the Jets as others. I do think you win in Seattle, and I think you can win against the Vikings. You could be riding a 6-game winning streak, and it's a pretty favorable schedule after that, too. They won't, but
you never know. You never know. I mean, Kyler Murray almost dragged his team to 5 wins after returning to the second half of the year, coming off a major injury with no preseason, no DeAndre Hopkins, learning a
he's
brand
got
new
a new
system.
receiver.
Yeah, that new guy seems pretty good too. His dad was like a carpenter or something.
Tywon Palmer?
Yeah.
Or Tajon?
Yeah.
Tajon. Yeah.
Get it right.
They're back at home. His dad was a carpenter.
They're back at home week 14 against Seattle. The road team has won 14 of the last 21 in the series, so take that for whatever you need to. Week 15 against the New England Patriots. Drake May, number 3 overall pick. He probably should be starting by then, but we'll see what approach New England takes with him. It'll be the third matchup in the last 5 years between the two. And then notable, Kyler did tear his ACL late in the year against the Patriots at home, roughly right around the same week. So just a little nugget out there. Week 16, they're on the road against Carolina. We were talking about this. Dude, I feel like they play Carolina like every year on the road.
Every year. It might as well be an extended rivalry division game for them.
I will say this. I think at this point, week 16, obviously 3 weeks left in the year, you know what you are. And if the Cardinals pan out to be what we think the Cardinals will be, and the Panthers pan out to be what we think Carolina is going to be, this is one of the few games on the schedule where I look and say, okay, Arizona, there's no excuses for them not to win this.
That should be
a wise man once said, good teams make bad teams look bad. TBD on the Cardinals being a good football team, you need to walk into Carolina and embarrass those guys.
Here's the problem. I don't think this is a team you embarrass. Not even the Cardinals. Here's one of my hottest takes of the year. I think the Panthers are going to be sneaky competitive this year. Now, I do think they finish with a well under 500 record. I do think they finish with a top 5 draft pick. But I also think that this is a team that's going to be in more games than not.
So they're going to be the Cardinals from last year is what you're saying.
Right.
4-13, but they're scratching and clawing every single week.
Yes, because I do like the foundation that they're putting together. And, of course, this is going to sound bad because I can't remember his name. But I do like the head coach they brought in from Tampa Bay. I just can't remember his name off the top of my head. But I do like the pieces there. The biggest problem is ownership, of course, but I'm a Bryce Young fan. I like the receivers. I like Xavier Legette. Deontay Johnson is quality. Adam Thielen is quality. Jonathan Mingo is quality. Jonathan Brooks, big fan of him at running back. There's pieces on offense to be quality. Defense is going to be a mess. But this is a team, especially late in the year, you're going to know what they are and what they're not. So late in the year, they're either going to be fighting every single game or they're going to be rolled over on their backs and just walked all over. But I do like the Panthers this year to be competitive. The Cardinals should, is like you said, Donnie, to really echo your point, you should know who you are by this point in the year. And this should be, if they are what we think they are, a team that can beat down the Panthers. You should be able to. I'm just telling you, I think they're going to be better than what we think.
To quote the late and great Danny Green, God rest his soul, they are who we thought they were.
I'm glad you picked up on that. I was leaning heavily into that.
Did you throw that out for me earlier?
I might have, incidentally. This time it was very heavily implied.
Okay.
And we let them get away.
The Cardinals wrap up their season, a road game against the Rams at SoFi, and then week 18 against the 49ers. Both are TBD just in terms of time and place. Because the NFL loves to get creative with their scheduling with all like the end of year scenarios. And that is the schedule. And obviously, we didn't touch on the preseason, but they have one home game this year against the New Orleans Saints. They are at the Indianapolis Colts and then at the Denver Broncos. I'm interested to see what team they have a joint practice with because Jonathan Gannon did say that they have a AFC team that will have joint practices, and he said it'll be hot, and he said it will be back east. So all signs point to the Colts, but you never know. You never know. And Richie, that is the 2024 Arizona Cardinals schedule.
You want to have some fun and just rapid fire through the schedule? Wins and losses?
Okay, sure. Week 1.
Win.
I'll go loss. Week 2.
Loss.
Win. Week 3.
Loss.
I'll go win. Week 4.
Yeah. Week 3 win over Detroit. Okay.
I'm calling it.
I guess so. I got win over Commanders.
Okay. I also have a win over the Commanders. Week 5.
Loss.
Also a loss. Week 6.
Loss.
Also a loss. Week 7.
That's a toss-up. Right now, I'm going to lean towards a loss, though.
Okay. I'll go win over the Chargers. Week 8 over Miami.
Shoot. I am going to go with a loss because I do like Miami this year.
I'll go loss. All right. Chicago.
Win.
Win. New York.
Loss.
I'll go loss too. Bye week. Win. Seattle.
Win.
I'll go loss. I'll go loss. Minnesota.
Win.
I'll go win. I'll go win. And then all right, back home at Seattle.
Win. I think
win.
you get the sweep.
Nope. New England.
Win, and that's 4 straight wins for me.
I think that's win. Carolina.
I'm gonna go a loss.
Really? I'm gonna go win. All right. LA.
Loss.
I'll go win, and then San Fran.
Loss.
I have 10 wins for them.
I have 7, but I also think that you've got a toss-up between the Dolphins, between the Jets, between the Chargers, and you should be able to beat the Panthers, and there's no reason you can't split with either the Rams or Niners. That's 4 toss-ups for me, plus potential splits with the Niners. So I got 6 games that you could add to the 7 wins that I have here. They're not winning 13 games.
It feels like I was on the other side of the toss-up games too, just whenever we were going rapid fire. What do you think is a reasonable amount of wins for Arizona? Not looking at the schedule, what would you call like an okay parameter of improvement for them in the win column? I'd say about like 7 or 8 wins.
Yep, 7 and 10 is the improvement. 8 and 9 is outstanding. A winning record, extend Jonathan Gannon, whatever his contract is. I don't care if he signed a 20-year deal, give him 20 more. If he gets his team to 9 and 8, he deserves a raise. But I have them at 7 and 10 just in a rapid fire. I could justify some swings in there. I think 7 wins, 8 wins is probably your ceiling, but I don't see worse than 6.
So worst. some sort of improvement is shown here. Is
very much so. I think that this is going to be a Cardinals team that is much improved from where they were last year and the year before that.
All right, Potato Chip, any closing thoughts before we skedaddle on out of here?
I don't think so. Cardinal fans, I think this is a good year to get invested, be excited. They're not going 17-0. They might not have a winning record. Unlike last year, though, they're going to be fun to watch, and they're going to be competitive, and they won't bite kneecaps, but they're going to be Captain America when he was really skinny and he's like in the alleyway fighting the guys, and they're like, just stay down. And he goes, I can do this all day. Like, that's the Cardinals. Before they get the super serum, it's still like, it doesn't matter that this kid is like 4'11", 30 pounds soaking wet. He's like, I can do this all day. That's the Cardinals. And then next year they'll get the super serum.
Did you just nerd out at the end of our podcast?
I am your father.
Thanks, Dumbledore. Thank you so much for
You
tuning in to another edition of the All Cardinals podcast. Follow Richie on Twitter at RichieBrads36. Follow me on Twitter at Donut Drew. We got plenty more content coming to you guys, so stay tuned. Really appreciate the support. Talk to you guys later.